Good Tuesday evening, everyone. It is July 21st, 6:30, and hope everyone had a great day. It was certainly hot and humid, not as hot as it has been. We only made it into the middle 90s, certainly felt close to the triple digits, but yesterday we hit 96, which was absolutely brutal. So we're going to be slowly on the decline with these temperatures. One more toasty day to get through before some dramatic changes and a big, much needed cool down and a relief from that intense heat and humidity. However, this is all coming as a strong cold front starts to move in, and this is what's going to bring in some powerful, heavy thunderstorms. Heavy rainfall will be expected, especially that main coverage Wednesday night through Thursday morning, and the potential to drop 1 to even over 3 inches just within those 12 hours. And you'll see that plus next to it because there's going to be a swath of even some heavy soakers, 2 to even 4 inches. So a lot to get to. We are weather impact alert because of that flooding risk. Yes, we need it. We're in a drought, but too much of a good thing is a bad thing. And especially watching for that Thursday morning commute, because if you've driven in Charlotte when there's rain and especially ponding out on the roads, that creates a traffic nightmare. And of course, meteorologist Majestic Storm will be tracking the latest in terms of traffic, and meteorologist Chris Mulcahy will be in the morning to let you know everything that will be going on. In the meantime, just some isolated downpours that have really started to develop now across Charlotte. Now, nothing specifically here in Mecklenburg County, but we are seeing a couple over towards York, Sharon, Rock Hill, getting a cluster of thunderstorms now, extending over towards portions of Concord, Clear Creek, New Salem, checking in on Albemarle, a couple of downpours drifting to the east as well. Now, over towards York County, if these do hold together, the downpours that I'm looking at over towards Rock Hill and Sharon, this is going to be making a run into Mecklenburg County, I'd say, within the next hour. So much needed rainfall, but the rain chances today, very minimal, really starts to ramp up as we get that cold front, especially within the next 24 to 36 hours. It's been wet all afternoon long for the mountains. We've got one downpour that has moved out of Watauga into the southern portion of Avery. Clifton now getting some downpours and a couple of lightning strikes with that as well. Now zooming out, this is nothing compared to that cold front that's up to the north. In the green, those are some sort of flood warnings. Now what you see in the purple, those are active tornado warnings. And then in the orange and the yellow, those are severe thunderstorm warnings. So a lot to track. Basically, strong and severe thunderstorms, some of which are capable of producing a tornado way out ahead of that front. Looks like it's heading directly towards the mountains, but as we lose that daytime heating, a lot of this fizzles out. Can't rule out a couple of showers in the morning. We've always been tracking that up towards the mountains. Otherwise, the main event is not going to be arriving until later in the day on Wednesday. Now, severe weather threat certainly still going to be there, especially damaging winds tomorrow afternoon and evening, even going into Wednesday night. But Storm Prediction Center did introduce a tornado risk as well, mainly east of the metro. That does continue for Salisbury over towards Raleigh. We'll be watching for pretty much all modes of severe weather, but it's going to be more of that microburst, damaging winds upwards of 50 to 60 miles per hour. When you combine that, though, with heavy rainfall, that can make it easier to see down trees and down power lines. And with this beautiful tree canopy that we have here in Charlotte and, of course, North Carolina, extending all the way up towards the mountains, this is always a concern with systems like this. And that is why we are weather impact alert. Now, severe weather threat is not existent for Thursday. We're going to be so rain cooled, not enough storm energy out there, but certainly still continuing with heavy rainfall. So let's time this out for you on Futurecast. This evening, minimal rain chances, a couple of isolated downpours. This fizzles out by late tonight. And then here comes Wednesday morning. Notice those mountain downpours that I had mentioned. Then eventually, though, by the time we get to around 1, 2 o'clock, we've got some strong storms pushing in right alongside that I-40 corridor that doesn't get real active here in the metro and Piedmont until about 10 to midnight. So if you're thinking, well, it's 5 or 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, you haven't seen any rainfall in Charlotte, well, it's on the way. The bulk of that may actually be arriving while you're sleeping. This is going to be Wednesday, overnight into Thursday. Those darker oranges and reds just indicating very intense and high rainfall rates. And when this sits over the same area for hours, it's going to dump and accumulate a lot of rainfall in a short amount of time. So that means that Thursday morning commute, I cannot emphasize that enough, is going to be quite messy. Allow yourself plenty of extra time. Never drive through flooded roadways. As a reminder, if you haven't already, make sure to have some sort of way to receive watches and warnings, whether it's downloading the WCNC app or just having those alerts on as well. Here's what we're looking at. Adding all these rainfall totals up, 2 to even 4 inches in the highest swaths, which is now, these models have each and every refresh have just stuck with this narrative that we're going to get 1 to over 3 inches. Now, some locations getting closer to 4, just depending on where the heaviest band set up. Now, don't necessarily focus on the exact location because it's just what this system is capable of producing. Now, not everyone sees the same amount. So we could very well see lower rainfall totals in some areas and higher rainfall totals in other areas. So excessive rainfall impact goes up to a medium for Wednesday. No surprise there. And then we'll carry a flooding risk each and every day through the weekend just because it's going to be rainfall on top of rain. So Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Tomorrow, hot, toasty, one last hot afternoon expected. And then here comes the storms late Wednesday night. Weather impact alert for that as well. And we stay in the 80s. Nice cool down and a nice refreshing change of pattern for the Carolinas. Now coming up, I'll be joined by Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley. I just lost my train of thought there. So also our weather intern Rachel. We will be discussing all things weather in the tropics, plus flooding concerns coming up next.
Weather Impact Live with Brad Panovich is sponsored by Moisture Lock, crawl space, basement, and foundation repair experts serving the Carolinas since 1988.
Tired of all this rain? Does your yard look like a swamp after it rains? Hi, I'm Greg Doggett with Moisture Lock, Charlotte's premier waterproofing and foundation repair company. The longer water sits, the softer soil will become. This can cause foundation issues. If you're having drainage issues, contact Moisture Lock. We'll get the water away from your home and out of your yard.
Moisture Lock, stabilize, enhance, protect.
All right, welcome back, everyone. It's Tuesday evening, and I'm joined by Chief Meteorologist Tim Buckley and our partners at WFMY and our wonderful weather intern, Rachel Mosshammer. Said that right. We've got a lot to track tonight, some explosive storms up to the north, and it's going to be that same cold front that brings us the bulk of the rain and thunderstorms that we've been telling people about by the time we get towards the next 24 to 36 hours. The satellite radar kind of shows everything, very colorful on the map. Tons of lightning and the red tornado warnings and the yellow severe thunderstorms as well. So a busy night, very quiet for us here in the Carolinas, but it's about to get very busy, especially by the time we get to this time tomorrow.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like yesterday, we still, at least in my area, we're still in a level 2 severe weather risk. So it's been a little weird to talk around that because nothing's really been going on, and I don't really think much will go on for us this evening. But I think they're just covering the bases here as those things drop a little farther south into our region. But farther north, it's busy, and boy, it was busy last night too with thunder and lightning and everything else. A lot of people got a big light show, but today I think they're getting more than they bargained for in areas to the north, and we probably want to take notice of that before it comes our way about 24 hours from now.
And we got sent a couple of photos of shelf clouds colliding with the sunset yesterday evening. So a couple of viewers sending us some pictures. We much appreciate that as well. Now, James, our producer, does have an update on, because he's been tracking all the severe weather across the country. So James, what is the latest?
So just to kind of give people the lay of the land from where we sit here in the North Carolina area, we can watch stations all around the country. So in the next 20 minutes, we're going to take you to those different stations across the country to show you what they are gathering live and what they have gathered so far today. The first thing I want to show you guys, because this is a scene that has just been repeated over and over and over again, is this tree that fell on a home near Cincinnati, Ohio. This is just one of many trees that we've seen fall. These storms producing a lot of wind damage. We've seen tornadoes with some of these storms, and if this video zooms out a little bit, you can see that this tree is actually laying on a home, which is unfortunately a scene, guys, we're seeing repeated across the country.
And we did coverage of this earlier today on our YouTube channel, just kind of giving a really broad perspective on everything we're looking at. This is a pretty large system that's moving through all the way up upstate New York down to Louisville, Kentucky, and so we had taken a lot of video today at a lot of stations going live and seeing their tornado warning coverage. But like James said, I mean, we've seen a lot of different shots today. One in New Jersey of a car that was stalled in water. So again, we're really emphasizing this tornado potential and what we're talking about with this storm system. But I think the heaviest hitters that we're seeing in this is that severe wind and flash flooding risk. I feel like a lot of times, and we've said it before, I myself get kind of wrapped up in that tornado risk and really wanting to hit heavy on flash flooding and severe winds, because those are going to be what affects the most amount of people in this.
And Louisville, Kentucky has seen their fourth tornado warning?
Yeah.
Is that right?
At the very least. They're actually on the air right now. If we
Okay.
want to take a brief listen in to what our colleagues there are doing, we can bring you, this is multiple hours of severe weather coverage, and it is continuing right now. So let's take a brief listen in.
You mentioned and not so much southeast. So it looks to be unfortunately heading right toward Edmonton, Kentucky.
I can't believe we're hitting 2 county seats. No.
Edmonton, Cedar Flats. We have, let's see, 496.
Yeah, give them all these towns. I can only get so much. It's getting close to the Parkway
Right.
right now.
Yep.
So if you're approaching on the Parkway, listening to WHAS, just pull over and wait a few minutes. Let it go by Edmonton.
Yep. So that is our last severe warning. We don't even have any active severe thunderstorm warnings.
We have flash flood warnings. That's it.
Yeah, we have a lot of flash flood warnings, and then this lone tornado warning.
Does
And what they're referencing there, and I can tell you from having sat in the producer chair here for a couple hours, is they've been in multiple hours of severe weather coverage with confirmed tornadoes on the ground, one near Fort Knox earlier. And so these storms are about to exit their coverage area. They've been doing really long coverage for a really long period of time, and you can kind of hear them saying, okay, these storms will soon be out of here. Unfortunately, they will become someone else's problem real soon.
Yeah, you could see how stressed they were on their face and kind of glad that all of this was moving out of the area. But yes, Rachel was mentioning how strong the rotation looked, and it's been a very active last couple hours, certainly over towards Kentucky. And we're preparing ourselves for this type of weather, not necessarily the huge severe weather outbreak, but flooding concerns big time, especially with these downpours that can produce 1 to even over 3 inches of rainfall. That's certainly going to be a concern. And with the tree damage as well, the tree canopy is so widespread here in North Carolina. So anytime we get gusty winds, strong, severe thunderstorms, a lot of heavy rainfall, can saturate the soil, can down trees and down power lines with some strong gusts of wind. This is what we see pretty often, especially here in Charlotte, which is why it becomes such a traffic issue as well, and why Thursday morning is probably going to be quite the mess for people and commuters as they head off to work.
Yeah, and we're going to continue to show tornado coverage and tornado pictures and mention the word. It's probably not our biggest concern tomorrow, the tornado threat. Pretty low, not zero, but something that I think we'll keep an eye on the front end. So here's the tornado risk that's been going on today. For tomorrow, you can see it's a bit lower and for a bit of a smaller area of North Carolina. And I think the time frame we want to watch for wind damage and for tornado damage, that would be when it's still hot outside, which would be before the front or along the front tomorrow afternoon, maybe into parts of tomorrow evening, depending on where you're located. Once we get into tomorrow night, we should be behind the front with some cooler air rushing in. That's when we get more concerned about that flash flooding risk. And the thing about that, even though we're in the drought, if you get scattered thunderstorms to move over the same areas repeatedly, well, then you get 1 inch of rain, then you get 2, then you get 3. And if you get 4 inches of rain, it's going to flood. It floods in the desert, right? There's only so much that you can handle over such a short period of time. And it's hard to say exactly who would get that problem. It seems like, Becca, right now that bullseye in our model keeps on projecting is, between our two markets, around Salisbury, Asheboro, these kind of areas. We'll see if that proves to be correct. But everybody should be watching for that, mostly while they're sleeping and then into Thursday morning.
Absolutely. And there are always locations that get more and always locations that get less. That's why it's important to make sure you have notifications turned on. A flood watch may be coming soon as well. I know we have one up for the mountains, but a flood watch may be issued going into tomorrow as well. So more from that on the National Weather Service, but always a good idea to have those alerts turned on as well. Now, James, I know you mentioned that we have some storm damage.
Yeah, this was something Rachel and I were watching during our live stream earlier.
Yeah, we were covering earlier a potential tornado that went through our partner WBNS up in Columbus, Ohio, their viewing area. We had some pretty good sound bites of hearing what people were seeing in what looks like to be a church parking lot and some of the damage done to the building there.
After these storms and some of the damage, Kevin, tell us more about what you're seeing.
Well, I'm outside the Church Triumphant in Newark, and you can just see thousands of pounds of roof now in the middle of the street after it was blown off this church. It not only blew the roof off, but it also blew out all of the gutters. Take a look up there. Those cinder blocks up there also torn off. But let me tell you about how powerful these winds were. That cinder block flew across, crashing into this car across the street, leaving a massive dent. Now, we spoke to a witness just moments ago as we were first on the scene. Here's what he described moments before this huge wind gust came through the neighborhood.
It was all black, and then I looked up and this tornado was coming down. I run in the house real quick, and when I come back out, man, all this.
You're confident it was a tornado?
Oh, I saw it. I saw it.
He says it was a tornado. We'll go with that until the National Weather Service actually gives us a confirmation. We did speak to the pastor of the church. He told us nobody was inside, thank God, because it's summer. Nobody would be in this church anyway. He told us he does plan to rebuild. There is more damage behind the church. There's a trampoline that was blown into the trees. But right now, the rebuilding process is going to start with getting all of this debris out of the road here in Newark. Reporting live in Newark, Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
Wow.
Now, the difference between these straight line winds or downburst winds and tornado winds is the direction. So between inflow winds and outflow winds, whether it's flowing into the storm or out of the storm. So the NWS will go in, they'll do all of that. They'll survey and see if that damage is tornado damage. But again, really breaks it down that just wind is wind, and it can definitely do this, especially when it moves through a populated area.
Yeah, and that's certainly a good reminder going into tomorrow and especially Thursday morning as well. And crazy to see those images and that roof blown off as well. I'm glad that no one was in that church. In the meantime, I'll switch over to the tropics because Tropical Storm Bertha, despite not looking too impressive right now on satellite radar, has managed to intensify with winds sustained at 60 miles per hour. And the rain bands with this look very unimpressive. It's fighting a lot of wind shear. Bertha's holding on strong, but the newest model updates really have a lot of that rainfall off the coast, so a lot of it falling over water. Still going to bring some soakers and maybe some sort of landfall in Louisiana as a weak tropical system tomorrow. But Bertha still out there.
Not the most impressive, but I do think it's kind of interesting from a meteorological standpoint, right? And you guys were talking about this off in the chat, and we talked about it yesterday as well. There are a couple of factors keeping it a cap on it, basically. You've got the wind shear component, which is when we have winds that are blowing a little bit harshly above the ground, and what you see is kind of a half storm at the moment. It's exposed near land, and most of the thunderstorms are offshore, so it's not really able to get its act together, and there's also some dry air impacting it as well. So even if you're along the Gulf Coast, if you're in Pensacola or Mobile or New Orleans, it's kind of a partly cloudy day with a couple squalls moving in every now and then, and it hasn't been that big of a problem just yet.
Yeah, pretty unimpressive of a system. Rachel actually was doing a great mobile short about how the wind shear is tilting Bertha. She has more.
Yeah. Did it take 60 takes? Yes, it did. But I did do a mobile short today on wind shear. Yeah. So, I mean, we could think of a tropical cyclone. Obviously, you guys know this, but think of a tropical cyclone as a spinning top on a table, right? And so a top is going to spin from its center because of angular momentum, and so it's balanced on each side. But if you hit it on either side, you tip it, and so it starts to lose control, and then you kind of fall over, and then it stops spinning. Well, it's pretty similar with a tropical cyclone because cyclones spin from the middle. You have upper level winds, they come through and kind of knock it off of its vertical axis, and then you get it to collapse in on itself. And fortunately for this, but unfortunately for the storm, it ends up dying because of this upper level shear that kind of just takes over and really shreds the storm.
Absolutely, and great explanation. And wind shear is making it harder for Bertha to actually develop a tight, symmetrical core. Now, it's got the warm Gulf waters, but it's the shear that's working against it. So, yeah. Good news, though, for the Gulf Coast states. Maybe they needed rainfall, but looks like the worst of it is really going to be off towards the coast.
And that's something we do expect more of in an El Nino like we're seeing. One of the common highlights is that stronger than usual, more present wind shear than you typically would expect, especially across the open Atlantic closer to Africa. So this could be a common theme that while we see storms try to get going, they might have a harder time forming or staying formed in that case. But don't let it fool you. You can still get some of these tropical rain bands like we're seeing right here. Where is this, James? Is that Mobile or something?
Yeah, I think this is coastal Alabama.
Okay.
I don't know if I have an exact
WALA, that makes sense. And it looks like a decent little thunderstorm right there.
Orange Beach is this particular Skycam location.
All right, and the camera's shaking. Certainly some gusty winds as well. So certainly keeping an eye on the tropics. But we also do, it's becoming the Rachel show, and I'm here for it as well. But Rachel did a wonderful weather IQ about whether or not we see a smell with rainfall. So listen here.
You've probably said it before. I can smell the rain rolling in. And you're not wrong. When you get that all too familiar earthy smell in the air, it's actually not the rain itself. There's a name for this: petrichor. Petrichor is a mixture of chemicals, plant oils, and lightning. And although the rain falls from the clouds, the scent does not. It derives from the dirt. In In soil, small bacteria form a chemical called geosmin. This is a compound of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Once rain falls, air bubbles filled with geosmin form and rise to the surface of the soil. The rain interacts with these air bubbles and release geosmin into the air. Plants form a protective oil around themselves after a lack of rainfall, which eventually spreads to the nearby stone and soil. The result of geosmin, rain, and these protective oils is this rich, earthy smell that we all associate with thunderstorms. But there's more. When storms roll in and lightning cracks, bolts from the clouds split nitrogen and oxygen molecules. These molecules rearrange to create ozone, and wind shear carries them to the surface of the storm. The outcome? Metallic top notes to nature's perfume. With your Weather IQ, I'm Rachel Mosshammer.
All right, Rachel's first and not last Weather IQ, certainly great. And these are always very educational. I just did one on how lightning can help make plants greener. So this is certainly plausible. And I've smelled it before, but learning about the science, certainly very cool. It does have that earthy smell, I can confirm. And many of us will be seeing that and smelling that earthy smell going into the next few days.
I think it's a lot more present when you're in a drought like this, too. Like, the longer it's been dry, I think you notice it a lot more. So it has been noticeable on the rare occasions that we've gotten rain over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of months. Every time it rains, it's like, man, go outside and just smell it. Go to the parking lot, because it smells pretty cool.
It has been quite some time since Charlotte has actually seen a downpour, so this is going to be some much-needed soakers. I know for the Greensboro area as well, we will certainly take it. We'll take the cooler temperatures as well. I know many of us may not even make it to 80 degrees going into Thursday, which is a extremely dramatic cool down. We stay in the 80s through the weekend. But, of course, we'll have more on this going into tomorrow evening as well. Meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees will be in tomorrow evening discussing more Bertha. We'll check in on how she's doing. And, of course, we'll have storms to track as well. Checking in on both Brittany and Bertha.
Okay.
Yes.
Brittany, Bertha, and Buckley. How about that?
Oh, it's a good one.
There we go.
No biggie Bertha, as you called it earlier.
Yes.
No
All right, good
biggie
night,
Bertha.
guys.
Yes.